Well, net zero targets are the talk of the town and have actually just caused a civil war in the federal Nationals Party. We've just seen the Nationals leader, David Littleproud, go head-to-head with the former Nationals leader, Barnaby Joyce, over whether or not the Nationals would continue to support a push towards net zero. We'll get to the results of that in just 1 second, but one person and one party whose position on net zero has been completely unequivocal and very, very public has been Senator Ralph Babet for the UAP, and he joins me now here on the Aussie Wire. Senator Babet, thank you for joining us.
Topher, thank you so much for having me on your show. Once again, you do a great job. You're covering the issues that the mainstream media just doesn't seem to want to cover for whatever reason. But look, this net zero thing is an interesting one. Let's get to the bottom of it. Let's have a chat. Let's go for it. Thank you, Topher.
The first thing I want to say, Senator, is the UAP does not seem to have needed a civil war to come to a position on this particular issue. You guys came to a decision very early on. You've been very consistent on that. What's your position and why was it so easy, or at least from the outside, appeared so easy for you guys to come to that decision?
So easy, and I'll tell you why it was so easy, Topher, because the United Australia Party, you know what we are first and foremost? We are patriots. We love our country, and we will always put Australia, guess what? Not two, not three, first. Australia first. All decisions that we make in federal parliament or in state parliament one day, God willing, when we have members elected there as well, is to put Australia first. Net zero at its core, what does it do? Guess what? It doesn't put Australia first. And that's why it was so easy and so quick and so simple for us to just push back and say, if there is ever a UAP government in charge, net zero is going straight into the trash heap of history. That's where it's going, Topher.
Now, Senator, I don't know if anyone's ever said this to you, but if you thought about a career in real estate, I reckon you'd make a great real estate agent. Like just that enthusiasm. No. So what we've seen recently from the Nationals is fascinating to me because the Nationals were built on this idea that they stood for the average everyday Aussie, in particular rural Australians, our primary producers. How are the UAP looking at this? Are you seeing an opportunity here?
Absolutely. Look, Topher, the Nationals, as far as I can tell, they've gone the way of the Liberal Party. They've been taken over by what seems to be woke inner city soy latte sipping activists. That's what's happened to the Nationals there. Now, the Nationals are supposed to look after country Victoria, and guess who's going to suffer most under this net zero garbage? It's not going to be your inner city woke lefty. It's going to be the country areas, the hardworking people, the farmers, the food bowls of Australia. That's who's going to suffer. The average mum and dad is going to suffer. We've got a cost of living crisis right now. There is no end in sight to that. We've got our manufacturing being sent offshore. There's no end in sight to that as well. We've got China basically taking control of our national energy supply at the moment through solar panels and batteries and things like that. We've got them, they've essentially got Australia by the you-know-what at the moment. And you've got our elected members of parliament in this building right now where I sit right now. I'm actually in Canberra right now, selling us out, as far as I can tell. They're selling us out to these globalist interests, to overseas interests. They're not looking after Australians. And I have had a gutful. I'm sick of it. You know, Nationals, what the hell are you doing? Do you want to go the way of the Liberal Party? Is that what you want? Do you want to be completely decimated in every state and territory in the country apart from Tasmania? Is that what you want your future to be? If you keep going down this path, you're going to be no better than the Liberal Party. You're going to be done. You're going to be cooked. You are going to be dusted. But you know what? That's okay. The United Australia Party is here. And you know what? The United Australia Party does not care a dime for net zero. Net zero, like I said before, the trash heap of history. Why? Because it's Australia first. Now, people tend to conflate two issues. They conflate, net zero with genuine environmentalism. Sure. I am an environmentalist. Should we cut down on plastics going into the ocean? Absolutely. Do we need to make companies and corporations responsible for the pollution that they emit, as in, chemicals, pesticides, etc., into rivers and estuaries? Absolutely. Do we need to protect our native forests and preserve our flora and fauna? Absolutely, we do. I'm the genuine environmentalist. And that's what we need. Don't conflate the issues. Net zero is nothing to do with all that other good stuff that we all care about. Net zero is about deindustrializing Australia and handing our productive capacity to global elites and, of course, another beneficiary, the Chinese Communist Party.
Well, Senator, I just wish you'd stop holding back a little bit and just tell me what you really think on these issues. Now, I've gone toe to toe with the now Nationals leader David Littleproud in the past. I was the MC at a protest, a legal protest that took place in early December 2019 when he was the water minister, and that was about access to irrigation water for our farmers and our farming communities. As you say, the Nationals appear to be abandoning their base. They appear to be abandoning those rural communities and those food and fibre producers. Can you speak to any of the policies that the UAP have that would stand in contrast? If you're looking to take ground off them, you're going to have some water-related policies. You're going to have some energy-related policies, maybe even some immigration-related policies, so that orchardists and growers can actually find the pickers that they need to get their produce. Can you give me some examples of some of the areas where the UAP are I guess, moving in politically onto the Nationals' territory?
Absolutely. Now, I'll give you the main, most important one right now, as far as I'm concerned, at the time being, and that is our energy policy. Okay. We have a government in place right now that wants to take us down the net zero path using solar panels and batteries. Mm-hmm. Solar panels don't work when the sun's not shining. Solar panels last about 20, 25 years before you got to throw them into the bin, into landfill. Wind farms don't work when the wind's not blowing. Obviously, that goes without saying. And all of this stuff, or most of it, is sourced from China. So we're handing over everything that we need to have a prosperous, productive nation to the Chinese Communist Party. And guess what? They're no friends of ours. So there is a massive push right now at the very highest levels of our government to go towards net zero. I'm one man. I'm one UAP senator. I can't stop that absolute flood. As we've seen, the Libs, the Nats, they're all going the same direction. So what I'm saying is, if we're going to go down this path, then what we need to do is we need to seriously look at nuclear power. Because nuclear power, if you believe that, carbon emissions are going to destroy the world and it's all man-made and all that kind of stuff, I don't. But if you do believe that, then nuclear power is the solution. It emits no carbon into the atmosphere when it produces power. People have this preconception in their head that if we go towards nuclear power, we're going to have a Chernobyl type event. That is not the case at all. Modern nuclear technology is very, very safe. It's very reliable, and it's non-polluting, right? It's non-polluting. And if we're going to go down net zero, then we need to be having a serious discussion about nuclear power. Because if we continue to shut down coal and gas, what's going to happen is you're going to end up broke, homeless, and destitute in your own country because you're not going to have access to cheap power. Now, people just think, electricity, it's just to turn on the lights and turn on the TV, but absolutely not. Cheap power is the bedrock of our civilization. It is the absolute bedrock. If you don't have cheap power, you don't have food. If you don't have cheap power, you don't have a manufacturing base. If you don't have a manufacturing base, there's nobody making things and selling things. It's not that complicated. In order to have a successful, productive economy, you need to make things, you need to sell things. That's how it works. It's basically that simple. If we can't make things and sell things, we're stuck. And if our country is going to go forward into the next century, nuclear power has to be on the table. Now, the United Australia Party was among the first parties to start talking about nuclear power a decade ago. Very, very long time ago. We've been talking about it for ages. At the moment, we're seeing the coalition now start to adopt it and start to talk about it as well. And that's the importance of parties like the UAP, because we put ideas out there before they're popular, and then eventually the other, mainstream, in my opinion, crappy parties catch on, and then they adopt the policy, and then they pretend it's theirs all along. But I'm going to tell you right now, nuclear power is a very, very long-standing United Australia Party policy. And if you want to have food on your table, if you want to have a dollar that has some purchasing power, if you want to live a good and prosperous life into the future, you better get on board with nuclear power. If you don't, you better get on board with poverty instead.
Well, Senator Ralph Babet, for the UAP, Senator for Victoria, you're always a lot of fun to have on the show. What you were just talking about there with the minor parties and what the UAP and I will say a few other parties as well have done with this nuclear issue, putting it on the table 10 years ago, is what's known as shifting the Overton window. That's what we're all about here at the Aussie Wire as well. It's one of the reasons we love talking with you. Thank you so much for joining us once again on the Aussie Wire.
Thank you, Topher. You're doing a great job. Keep it up.
Cheers.